Okay, so let's get to the verdict. There are two moments. Juror number 11, her name is Paula.
I sometimes felt like I think we are just dumb people. I just want to really clarify that I'm not speaking out because I'm making money.
Did I pay you for this interview?
I did miss the Alberts and Higgins, they should be called. Just to clarify, we are not required to never heard about the case and know about the case. Some of us knew that there was a trial before, that Michael Proctor were fired.
How did you feel about Judge Bev? And feel free to speak freely or feel free to say nothing at all. I will accept both answers.
Judge Canoni.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up. It's the Law. Folks, today we are having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful interview for you all. I'm sure you have seen her. I'm sure you're going to recognize her. She is known as Juror number 11 from the Karen Reed jury trial. We are so lucky to have an amazing guest today. Juror number 11, her name is Paula. She served on the jury in the Karen Reed trial number 2 from April 22nd until June 18th. I forget the exact day of the verdict on the Karen Reed jury trial. And she has done lots of interviews. Some of you may have seen her on NBC. You've seen her on ABC. Whoever has, Turtle Boy, I think, may have done an interview with her. She will tell us all about it. But I guess now it is my turn. So without further ado, I bring you Paula. Hi, Paula. How are you?
Hi, Larry. How are you? I'm good.
Good. So I am going to do my interview a little bit differently than everybody else. I want to give people something special. And as a lawyer myself, and I know that you are an attorney, correct?
Correct. In Brazil, just to be clear.
In Brazil. So you're not licensed in the United States?
No, I'm licensed nationally in Brazil only.
Understood. So my audience and I are curious. If you don't mind, I want to take us back all the way to April 2025.
Okay.
In April 2025, do you remember approximately, and you may not, and if you don't, that's okay, but I'm going to go, basically, we're going to go chronologically, okay? In April of 2025, you were selected as a juror.
I think it was before that. If I remember correctly, the trial started on April 22nd.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, something around April was chosen as juror.
And how? So I want you to tell us, how did it feel? What was the process like for you when you saw, the judge at the bench, and you got the prosecution lawyers, you got the defense lawyers, you see Karen Reed, the defendant, and jurors are being called one by one by one, and you're sitting there and you're waiting for your name to be called. Like, how did that feel for you?
You mean before I was selected or on the
Before?
Before, okay.
Yes.
It was my first time inside a courthouse here in the States, so I was actually amused by the whole building and pay attention and waiting. A little anxious because I didn't know what the case was, what if I was selected, what for. I saw like more than 5 lawyers for the defense calling people by people, so that's probably a big deal. They have their computers open, checking our social media. I think the people who work for the lawyers, interns, I don't know, checking social media was paying attention, like they're dragging into our lives. And when the judge called me, she just was very quickly. She just asked like basic questions if I knew about the case. No, actually, she said, when I asked if you knew about the case, you were the only person who didn't raise your hand. Why you don't know about the case? And then I answered, I've seen her name in billboards and loud signs around the neighborhood, like Free Karen Reed, but I didn't check what the case was. I don't know what she did. I don't know who she is. And then, oh, okay. And then they start asking me if I'm biased. The lawyers asking me, what do I think about alcohol, drink and driving? And 3 minutes later, they were okay and put me back. And then they called me again and said I was a juror.
Okay, so you told the judge, the defense, and the prosecution at the bench during that private little conference that you saw Free Karen Reed billboards. You are familiar with her name, but that's as far as it goes.
That's as far as it goes. Yeah, I remember I mentioned like I see her billboard every time. She asked like, "How many times have you seen this?" Like every time I go grocery shopping, so I've been seeing for a year. And then she's laughed too, but that was it.
That was it. Okay. And you were picked as a juror, and the trial started, I think opening statements were around April 22nd. So
Correct.
tell us again, let's go back in time. You're sitting in the courtroom, you're looking around, you see about 15 or 16 or 17 other people along with you. 12 of you are going to be selected to deliberate the case. You were eventually selected as one of the 12 to deliberate on the case. But before we even get there, what was it like in the very, very beginning when you listened to Alan Jackson's opening statement? And he has this, for those of us who know about trial number one, which is me, my audience, everybody who's basically a non-juror knew about trial number one who has been following this case. So we know like what happened and how it happened. And we got a chance to see like a totally different Jackson. But you saw Jackson for the very first time in opening statements. What did that feel like? What would, if you remember, what thoughts were going through your mind as you listened to the prosecution opening and then the defense opening?
I think both of them did a good opening. I was excited to be there, to be honest, and I want to pay attention to every single detail. And it was our first idea of the case. I remember Brennan saying something about we're going to show you through data and scientific proof and everything. And it was like, wow, we're going to find all the evidence that's going to prove that she's guilty. Because in my head, I started the trial thinking that she could be guilty, more inclined to guilty than not guilty. And that was totally a prejudgment on myself, because I know we had to do the opposite. She's innocent until prove the opposite. But humanly speaking, she's here, she's sitting down there, something she did. They have something on her. And then Alan Jackson came, and he's very energetic. It's a very different vibe than Mr. Brennan. And I mean, I know that lawyers has to bring in a little of the drama and the theater to get our attention and everything. So I found like Alan Jackson was inclined to this side, like he would be the person who would wake us up. People call him action Jackson, right? And it makes completely sense, because it is. He comes in and boom, everybody just watching closely. But that was it. Like first impression, I was really attentive and taking notes as much as I could, and excited to see. But I admit I had a prejudgment like on the case. I saw the foreman saying that he saw the woman and she was innocent until proved guilty, and I was on a totally opposite spectrum.
Because you're a human being, right?
Yes.
That's what sometimes as humans we walk in, we see the government and we're like, okay, they represent the people. And then there's this woman being accused of a crime. So she must have done something, right?
Yeah, something. And also, you guys need to know that as a foreigner, I live in this country for more than 10 years, but we still have this image that everything in the US works best than everyone everywhere else, right? So the police here are great. They have a great system, and the cops get the bad guys, and the jails are full. We have this image being sold to us through movies and everything. So yeah, as a Brazilian, especially Brazilians love the United States. We wouldn't imagine that this type of thing would happen in a small town, like the one you see in Desperate Housewives type of thing.
Wow. Okay. So I want to put a bookmark there, because I'm sure my audience, as they're going to be watching this, they're going to have 1,000 questions, and we're going to get to them, people. I promise we're getting there. I just, like I said, I want to continue going chronologically. So you called him Action Jackson. I'm guessing you kind of learned that actual term after the trial was over, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I'm looking for some clips here and there. I didn't watch the first trial or the second trial again. I'm kind of tired of looking into the trial right now, but
Sure.
I learned all the terms and all the names and everything just after. I did download Twitter or X as soon as we came back in the room. Wasn't prohibited to us to get our phones and look to the news finally. And after we composed ourselves and wow, we done everything. I was crying, other people were crying. Um, I download everything and I start seeing some catchphrases here and there and information here and there.
Understood. Okay. So opening statements are over. We get to the witnesses. I think Hank Brennan had maybe 50 or so. I lost count at some point. He had about 50 witnesses. The defense had about 15 or 20. As the case progresses, end of April, beginning of May, middle of May, this is just the prosecution puts on a witness and then cross-examination by Alessi or Jackson or Yannetti. How, in your mind, as the time goes on and as the prosecution presents its case and presents its witnesses, what is your thought process? Like, how do you start seeing the case? How do you start seeing Karen? How do you start seeing Hank or the defense? What starts forming in your mind as the case progresses? We're all curious.
I think during the prosecution, witnesses, Hank Brennan was good. He was polite. He was straight. He had good questions. The first witnesses were police officers, I think, besides Harry Roberts and then his mom and Jim McCabe. All the other witnesses, if I'm correct, were police officers or fire department employees or medical personnel. I was looking into that like as technical information, like eyewitness. They were there, they saw everything, so I was paying attention to the details, taking notes of everything. And then when the cross come in, they would point out the things that didn't make sense. So let's take note on those things too, to see if we can put the dots all together. I won't criticize Brennan in general because I don't know his history. I don't know what he was doing before. I know he was invited to cover this case, right? And I honestly don't understand why, because you have a prosecutor there. Why are you going to pay extra to bring someone from outside? But politics, I don't know. He was a good lawyer, had the good questions, and he worked with what was given to him, I guess. So the lab officer, the lab employees from the police department, Mass State Police Department, they were credible. He brought some credible witnesses, people just, giving the reports. And he brought unnecessary people too. For example, his niece or his mom didn't add anything to the case. There was a friend that came to read Michael Proctor's texts, I think. Yeah. So he didn't call Michael Proctor, but he called, no, it wasn't Buchanan, it was another person.
No.
So who?
Oh.
There was someone who was friends that read some text message. No, I don't remember.
Oh yeah, he was new. I know who you're talking about. I just can't think of his name right now. And he read some of the text. Yeah. So how did that feel that they didn't even call Proctor to read his own text messages?
Yeah, over the trial, I learned that Proctor was a former trooper. So okay, maybe he's not coming because he's the former trooper right now. So he already gave what he has to give in the case. He investigated. Whatever he did, he paid off. He's out. I did miss the Alberts and Higgins for sure. I think they should be called. We didn't know who they were. So we heard the names the whole trial and they didn't show up. But yeah, like he had good witnesses, but he had also unnecessary witness. I still don't know why they called the managers of the bar. We listened to two managers, like making a baseline for something. I don't know, but there was two managers. The manager of the two bars they went on that night. They had their testimony.
Mm-hmm. So you feel that it hurt the prosecution by not calling the owner of the house, Brian Albert, and not calling the one who had the text message exchange with Karen Reed, Brian Higgins. You think that hurt the prosecution?
I do think because if they want to present their narrative and convince us of something, and that's their burden, they should bring in these people first. They will tell their point of view, what happened. They just gave an interview this week or last week, right? So we want to hear from them their story, so we could compare and see if it was reliable or not, and we didn't.
What about not hearing from Michael Proctor, we like to call him former disgraced Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor? When the trial ended and you saw that he did not testify, the lead investigator, as you heard, did not testify, how did that make you feel? What did that make you think?
Personally, I didn't care much because everything I think he did was presented to us. Like we have all these officers coming and telling how the investigation was done. We had 3 days of Buchanan, and he was already fired. So what else he's gonna bring? Like he didn't do anything after the trial started, or he was fired last year, right? I just know this now.
Earlier this year, he was
Early
fired in
this year.
March.
Yeah, you see, I didn't even know
Mhm.
that. So I don't think he had anything to add since everyone else brought the investigation and the details of the investigation. And because he was already fired, I didn't expect him to come. But that's just my opinion. Just I didn't
Sure.
care much. Just the Alberts and the Higgins that I wanted to hear.
So not just Brian Albert, you also wanted Caitlin Albert.
And now because we didn't hear Kaylin in the trial, we didn't hear calling. We
Oh,
didn't. I don't know who Kaylin calling. Uh, there's more
Allie McCabe.
Matthew McCabe. Also, his name came up, but I wanted Nicole and Brian Albert and Brian Higgins because those were the adults in the house and those were the names that were coming up a lot.
Got you.
And Denise Albert,
Um,
Denise something too. Denise McCabe. I don't know. Denise, the
the,
person who did a timeline who wasn't even there. Jane McCabe's
well,
sister.
right. Okay. There is a moment, by the way, I don't know if you remember, because this was very early on in the case. It was either late April or very early May when Jennifer McCabe testified. As you remember, she was one of the first witnesses, which was very unusual. Nobody really expected that, at least from the lawyer perspective, I think. There's a moment when Jennifer McCabe is testifying and she says something. She's trying to kind of like finish Alan Jackson's statement or question. And Alan Jackson says, please don't finish my questions, just answer them. And we can hear one of the jurors kind of go, like laugh a little bit. And then Jen McCabe kind of, darts at them. I don't know if that moment sticks out in your mind. I'm just curious. Do you remember that moment by any chance?
Now I don't remember that moment specifically, but I know exactly who the juror was. Was before we are the three people closer to the stand. Was four? No, he now is four, but he was 9 before the juror who changed seats. So it was 9, 10, 11, and we would sometimes laugh about something, and people would wonder why you're laughing. And it was nothing. It was something that they said or that sounds funny to us that was sharp, and then we just sometimes we had to control ourselves. But that was it. It was no like conspiracy or anything that we are seeing that you guys didn't see. It was just like our human side coming out, and we
You're a
couldn't
human
control
being.
ourselves. There was
Yeah.
many moments
You're
of that. Or just need to do like this.
Okay, so I'm curious. You said one of the jurors was changed seats with somebody else?
Yeah, so the juror number 9 and juror number 4, they switched seats mid-trial. And people ask online to me, what was that? What happens? Because they were uncomfortable. No, guys, it's just because the juror number 4 who was behind us, she wasn't hearing well, and she asked to change seats.
Ah,
That simple. And then juror number 10, who was often laughing, went to back. That was it.
so juror number 10, who was often laughing,
Yeah.
went to the back, so
Yeah.
you couldn't hear him as much or see his face. And
Yeah.
then juror 4 and juror 9 switched just because she wanted to hear better because she was having trouble hearing. So there's
Yeah.
nothing nefarious or nothing crazy. It's just people being people.
Yes, just normal stuff, day to day.
Got it. That's awesome. Okay, so let's keep going, like I said, chronologically. So now we're in, let's say, late May, early June. The prosecution is getting ready to close their case. They are closing their case, and that, a week period before. How, leading up to the prosecution saying, the prosecution rests, Your Honor, this is the entire case that we are going to present to these jurors, and sits down, and the moments leading up to it, how are you feeling about the case at that point?
I was like 90% inclined to not guilty at this point. And when he said we rest our case, we jurors, we can't talk about it, but we look to each other kind of like that was it, because I think all of us want to hear, especially from the house owners, didn't make sense that those people who were directly involved in the crime because it happened in their house didn't show up to say anything, you know. Just repeat the mistake of the investigation. They didn't go inside the house right away. They didn't talk to them right away, separate witnesses or anything. And then in trial, they didn't bring these people in. I felt like, why? You know, uh, we didn't say anything as a juror, but I can tell that people were surprised as me. Some of them, at least.
So after the prosecution, after Hank Brennan said, Your Honor, the prosecution rests, in that moment, you all are kind of looking at each other going like, are you serious? Is this it? Like you're
we
kind of unspoken
some
language.
looks. Yeah, we exchanged some looks in court, and we exchange as we are walking back to the room, and then we get there, we just do like this, like we can't say anything. We just, yeah, next.
Got it. Okay, wow. This is cool. I was not expecting to hear that. Interesting. Okay, so and then you said at that point you were already like 90% leaning not guilty on Karen Reed when the prosecution said prosecution rests. You didn't even hear a single witness from the defense yet, and you were already thinking that.
Yeah, based on the Commonwealth witnesses. There was some witness that felt like they were working for the defense already. For example, Dr. Scaribello, when she said that they and yeah, he didn't have any sign of being hit by a car. So that was like boom, bombshell. At least to me.
Bombshell.
Yeah.
Right, because she's the prosecution witness in saying that. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I don't remember if it was Officer O'Hara or O'Keefe, one of those two. Was super nervous on the stand, like biting his lips and closing his eyes too much and looking around like this and taking a deep breath all the time. This witness was really, to me, still a impression that he was extremely uncomfortable, nervous, and not being fully truth with his statements. But again, I can't accuse anyone of a perjury. It's, not my my aisle here. But the behavior of some of their witnesses also gave me this vibe that there was something else going on that they couldn't say.
It's not your job to solve the case. It's your job to look at the evidence, listen to the evidence, and determine whatever the government is asking you to do.
Yeah,
right?
very well said by the foreman yesterday too. That's we of course we speculate a little bit in the deliberation room. Well, so if it's not this, what happened? And then we try to keep our heads on like we don't care what happened. We just need to know if Karen did it. That was it.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So you all are looking at each other kind of, is this it? Like, seriously? In your mind, you're already leaning towards acquittal on the charges of, murder and manslaughter and leaving the scene causing a death, etc. Now tell us, the defense starts putting on their case and they call witnesses, and which one, if there is at least one witness or maybe two or even three, I don't want to limit you, witnesses that you think stood out, and I'm going to do the same for the prosecution in just a moment, because I think you already mentioned Scortibello stood out because she's the prosecution witness. She says there's no evidence he was hit by a car, and you're like sitting there probably going, what did my ears just hear? Are you serious?
So why are we here?
Felt the same thing. Why are we here? Oh my God, you just I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. And okay, so if there are any, like, because I don't want to go one by one, but if there are any like witnesses now in the defense's case that stood out in your mind, that like Lucky or maybe Dever, who was actually a prosecution witness that the defense called, or anybody else that you can think of that you're like, oh my gosh, or like that really stuck out in your mind.
Yeah, I already mentioned Ever. She stood out because of her demeanor in court that was very unprofessional, to put this way. I will give you 4 witnesses from the defense because they were really good. So the plot driver, I forgot his name. I think
Lucky Loughran.
Yeah. So the plotter driver, Officer Barrows, and Arca witness, and Dr. La Posada.
Okay, so which ARCA witness? Dr. Wolf or
one.
Dr. Wolf?
Yeah. I think
that's the day I was in court too. I don't know if you remember me or if you recognize me.
Yeah, I do remember you, and I think there was a shocking moment where the answer was so good, or the question was so stupid. I don't remember that we cross eyes accidentally. Like, wow. Um,
You and me.
yeah.
I
Uh,
remember that because you said in the front you were number 3 from the right, right?
yes, yes.
Yes, of course. I remember you now. I remember you now.
There was way
We
too
both
many.
kind of.
Yeah, there was way too many people on that court. So oftentimes we would cross eyes with someone. But surprisingly, Carrie never look at us. I never cross looks with Karen Reed, but everyone else, the lawyers and the families and the media, of course, we sometimes would, we are there for 30 plus days, so doesn't mean anything. We're just humans looking around.
Sure,
Uh,
exactly, exactly.
yeah, so. Yeah, you asked about the witness. Yeah, there was Dr. Wolf, La Posada, Barros, and Denver. I think they were great witnesses. Barrow and Lucky, of course.
Lucky.
Lucky
So
didn't
5.
see. Yeah, so Lucky didn't see the body, and with all the measurements they gave of the truck, the picture of the truck, the direction, the light that goes on, and before that, the weather guy on the Commonwealth
Meteorologist.
side, the meteorology, yeah, we call him the weather guy. Um, he said that snow just started to come strongly later that day. Have all the data showing like how many inches of snow. And by the time Lucky was driving, there wasn't that much snow. If I recall correctly, it was 2 or 3 inches of snow. A man of his size wouldn't be covered by snow, but just 2 to 3 inches, and he didn't see anything, and he went through twice, and he has to drive to towards the sidewalk because he's taking the snow out of the way, right, creating those snowbanks,
Yeah.
and he didn't see anything. What he saw was a car parked in front of the house, which was very unusual. And someone asking him a very stupid question. Oh, so you remember the dumpster in the other house? So of course he doesn't remember the dumpster who was in the neighborhood in that time. Nobody's talking about the dumpster for the past 3 years. They are talking about, that specific house. And he's been questioning about this for years. And he's gonna tell us what he saw that day about that house specifically, not about the other houses. It's totally understandable that he doesn't remember the dumpster. So that was like, I don't know if you guys have the expression here, but he shoot his feet or his foot with the information. Doesn't make sense. Denver, because of her behavior, Dr. La Posada, extremely knowledgeable, amazing doctor. She didn't bend to anyone, answer straight and answering all the questions, clarifying everything. And Dr. Wolf, the
And sorry,
presentation.
if I may interrupt for just a second. So La Posada, she was the one that said, yeah, when he's like, well, the dirt and the grass, and she goes like, yes, the dirt is under the grass. That's correct, Mr. Brennan. Like she was very snarky. We loved her for that. That
Yeah,
she was not
she
pulling
was.
any punches. She was just, bam, bam, bam,
Yeah, but did you count for this? No, because he wasn't hit by a car. But did you count for that? No, he wasn't hit by a car. Like very straightforward. Dr. Wolf testimony was because like the presentation Arca gave were just great. They pretty much nailed everything, answered all the questions. It was very detailed, like speed and damage, connecting all together. And Officer Barros, he didn't bend neither. I felt like Mr. Brennan was trying to squeeze some lie out of him, and he kept straight with his answer with no fear. And he was calm. You see the difference? Like you see Officer Denver and you see him, it's a huge difference of behavior. And which one you're gonna believe more? Which one gonna be more credible? The one who's lashing out lawyers, or the rolling eyes for the judge, or the one who is just answering straight, So those were the witnesses that took me to the 100% not guilty.
Exactly. I understand. So, what did you guys think about the tail light? That it was red when Barrows was towing the car, and then a few hours later, all of a sudden, there's no more red.
Yeah, it matched with my impression from the 507 video and from the dash camera video, and also the video of the car being towed in Karen's with his parents' house. When they play that 707 for the first time, I cringed my eyes like this. I wasn't really seeing that. I clearly remember note on my notebook, but the lights were on. Didn't seem that and then they played that video so many times, and we more and more were certain that it was too much red in that tail light for us to believe the damage was the same as we saw on the sail port.
I want to talk about closings in just a moment. I was going to do that first, but now we're in the deliberation room, so I'm actually going to skip closings for just a second. In the deliberation room, if there were like also, if you would say like the 3 or 5 or 1, I don't know, topics that were just like everybody was like, oh yes, like this is big. This just cracks the case wide open. This just solves our issues. We don't have to talk about this anymore. If there are like a few moments that you remember from your deliberations that were like, this is big, this is big, this is big, we don't, and obviously you talked about all the evidence because you spent a few days there, you spent like 25 hours deliberating. But if there's anything that sticks out in your mind, like, oh my gosh, like tell us if you can.
Tail light. Just hold the tail light on our hands and pass by. Everybody took a closer look on the tail light, and we would put the tail light on the table and play the video of the car leaving. We have, each juror has like a function, let's put this way. So one is looking for the evidence, the other one's on the computer, the other one's taking right in the big post-it. Just holding that tail light up front, comparing with a new one, comparing with the video, I think that was unanimous. Everyone agreed fast that that tail light did not represent what we saw on video. And Officer Barrows, we are looking for, like, makes sense to have a crack. Yes, if she hit his car on the driveway, getting out of the driveway, makes sense you lose a piece the size of a dollar bill. Yes, makes sense too. But doesn't make sense you have 80% of the taillight broken with all those with the red light shining for you.
And I know you didn't have this question to deliberate, but just as a human being, I'm curious, do you have this question in your mind, not as a juror, but just as a person, like who touched that light, right? After the fact. I mean, did you guys even talk about it at all? I know it's not your job. I'm just curious because obviously somebody tampered with it. Somebody did something to it. Somebody broke off pieces later. Did you guys talk about that at all, or did you all think about it at all individually, maybe?
No, we did talk about it, and not as a human. We talk as a juror because we have the sail port video that was inverted. We have that hair hanging there after traveling through a blizzard, magically that hair was also something that we did like we have to control ourselves. I speak for myself. I had to control myself.
Did you all talk about what happened to that tail light? So who broke the pieces off later? Who could have touched it? Why is it broken?
Sure. Yeah. So we thought, as a juror, we saw the inverted sail port video. We saw the piece of hair hanging there that didn't make sense. There was a moment where someone show up on the video and then a person walks out in the sail port, and then you get to the scene and I think Officer Geller said, they couldn't tape anything because of the blizzard of the wing. Okay, I'll give that to him. But also didn't report the time the first piece of tail light were found. You also didn't GPS or located where it was found. And so as a juror, we observed those things. It wasn't just as a human. Who put this piece of tail light in their lawn was someone who didn't fill the report, who show up and disappear in the sail port video, or someone else, I don't know, that could have done that. There was a probability in front of us that something was planted there because of those mistakes or coincidences.
So you guys talked about that?
Yes. Also, why nobody got a camera from the rest of the neighbors on the street? Why they didn't knock doors and bring everyone ring camera, front camera? Everybody has a camera in front of their house nowadays. Why you didn't ask for the Brands Albert camera? Because I know that camera and I know just film the staircase, like for packages and everything. No, my camera, he filmed the whole driveway. How you know which type of camera they have? Why you didn't ask anyways? You could hear something maybe. So we addressed that in deliberation.
Wow. So you guys went even further than just, okay, Karen is not guilty, but like, oh my God, there could be so much more that we are missing that we could have had, that we could have analyzed, that was never collected.
Yeah, because in order for us to remove her culpability, we need to include someone else's culpability. It's not our job to know who did it and why we don't have the proof or the evidence for this person. But we needed to analyze the other things that we're missing.
Yes, I understand. I think we kind of skipped over them, and I want to kind of go back for just a second. What did you think of Shannon Burgess and Dr. Welcher for the Commonwealth? I have to ask.
So, Mr. Shannon, I feel bad for him, when you feel embarrassed for someone, but not because of what he did in his LinkedIn. Okay, I'm not going to judge the guy in a personal level. I have to judge his work only. Sure. That exchange was tense, uncomfortable, hard to watch. The lies, the LinkedIn, how long did it take to complete your bachelor, this and that. Of course, we take this in consideration. It's not a good thing for you to lie in your profession. But I also add that he has experience. He's been working for this company for 8 years. So over time, he must have done something good, regardless of his degree. He has experience. He's working with this. So I didn't give too much weight to this LinkedIn part, me personally. I'm sure other people did, but Paula, I didn't. But Dr. Welcher, no, he presented himself, Dr. Welcher, a knowledgeable person. I have certifications in this, and that. And we're expecting to see a super awesome accident reconstruction. And we see a preschool work. And like I mentioned before, what he did measure. Okay, some people have other explanation. No, he was trying to show something else. But what we saw, what we understand, I'm going to talk for the other jurors here. Like most of us saw it was him trying to show that his arm was on the same height, and there was a possibility that the tail light would hit his arm. So there was like a ratio of John O'Keefe's height plus Lexa's size that would make that thing happen. And I did that when I went to visit the house, when they took us to see the scene. I stood in the back of the car. I licked myself in my toes, and I tried to see if my arm would touch the tail light. And I did all that for free. And nothing else was proved with that video. Let's give you credit to the video that he pushed the dummy on the floor and the impact, and he did some measurements there. But it's uncomparable with the ARCA evidence. It was much better.
Oh, you also reminded me, when you guys went to the scene, I don't know if you know this, and now that the case is over, we can talk about it, obviously. In your deliberations, did anybody mention anything about there was a rock that said Albert on it, on the lawn? Did you guys talk about it at all? Did you notice it?
No, because it was just disclosure that the rock wasn't there the January 29, 2022. The judge made it clear for us. Jurors, you needed to disclosure that rock wasn't there. I found weird, personally, because it says Alberts, because it says Alberts, and the Alberts don't live there anymore. If the house was bought by a family member or something, maybe, I don't know.
How did you know that? Was it during the trial or after the trial? You mean you learned that?
During the trial, we knew the family didn't live there anymore. And during the trial, the judge told us not to consider the rock. But I saw the rock, and it was Albert's written in it. So I didn't know why.
Because why would the new family that just moved into this house or whatever, why would they keep the Albert rock of the Albert family, of the previous owners, on the front lawn? Like, it doesn't make any sense, right?
It doesn't make any sense. So, do you know who put that rock there? Like, you guys have any theory? Curiosity.
We have a theory. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
So because trial number 1 ended in a hung jury, the jurors could not decide. And I'll tell you, the jury number 1 did not have a lesser included operating under the influence charge. They only had like manslaughter 2 and a few lesser includeds that you guys had. So you had like 2A, 2B, 2C, but there was no like 2D and 2E basically. So DUI was not there, and there was, I think, another one that was not there, but don't quote me on that. But DUI definitely wasn't there, 100%. That was a defense strategy for trial number 2 to include that, because they wanted to help you guys out, I think. But the problem is, because in trial number 1, the the McAlberts, who we are convinced are somehow involved in the murder of John O'Keefe, and they tried to pin it on Karen. They decided in their infinite wisdom, hey, how about, because he died injury of blunt force trauma to the head, if we put a rock there, well, then we can basically pretend like maybe the jurors will think that he fell backwards and hit his head, maybe not falling on the hard ground, falling on the snow, falling on the grass. You can't have an injury like that. But if you had a rock, well, he fell on the rock, and it looks like there's a little bit of blood on there, like, I don't know, dried blood, like another preschool project, just to kind of set a rock in there. And maybe you as a juror will go, maybe he did fall backwards and hit his head on the rock, and that's how he died, So that was I think that was their creative theory. That's what we think.
Yeah, if they are covering for someone or something, makes sense. The theory makes sense.
Okay, so now one thing we have not talked about is closing arguments. So now the prosecution closed their case, the defense presented and closed their case, and you said the 5 witnesses that you found most compelling are Dever and her unprofessionalism, Barros and his professionalism, Lucky, Dr. Scortibello, and Dr. Wolf. They were like the 5 stars of the defense, and now they're all done. And now we go to closing arguments. So Jackson goes first. He went for about an hour and 20, maybe 25 minutes, and then Brennan, I think, went a little bit longer. I think he went like 90 minutes. I didn't watch Hank Brennan's closing just because I don't care. I have better things to do, me personally, but you had to suffer through it. So tell me, how did you feel during like Jackson's closing and then Brennan's?
I think on the opening they were similar. They're both good. On the closing, I think Mr. Jackson was better. At that point, I personally think maybe Mr. Brennan was already giving up. I don't know, but I won't say angry, but he was a little upset, I think. Frustrated, that's the word. I think Brennan was frustrated, by his closing arguments. So I don't think he put too much energy into it. He was saying a lot of the same thing over and over again. Sometimes felt like I think we are just dumb people that we won't understand on the first time, and they keep repeating with different words. That irritates me. So the closing arguments was the moment we can't get their notebook. They did bring some old information that stands out, like the time. Alan Jackson said he told us to look into any specific evidence. He's give the number, if I'm correct, was evidence number 29 or exhibit number 29, and that was an exchange, tax exchange. And then I want to go inside and check this because that stood in my head. We cannot use the closing arguments as evidence of anything, but just throwing that information out there made me want to look to this exhibition specifically. But we are ready to go. I think we heard enough. We want to hear from the Alberts. We want to hear from Brian Higgins. Didn't happen in both sides. So let's move on with what we had. I was super ready to deliberate.
I bet you were after, was it 8 weeks or so, basically almost eight full weeks of jury trial, not including the breaks, of course, and the weekends.
Yeah. Felt like a job.
Felt like a job. So you saw Jackson as kind of like someone you could trust, would you say? That he tells you look at evidence piece number 29, so you're like, okay, I'm going to go look at evidence piece 29 because you're saying this is important.
Yeah, he, like I said in the beginning, I got in thinking the defense was going to be the defendant has something to hide. She's there for a reason, right? That's my first judgment in the beginning. Towards the end, I was like, wow, the defense did a great job. I don't think she's guilty at all. So you inclined to pay more attention. The people that you've been trusting for the past few weeks. With Mr. Brennan, I think he was great with his witnesses, but he went beyond a little bit. He was a little rude, unnecessarily comments coming from him towards some of the defense witnesses, and he lost my sympathy. Let's put it this way. So I didn't see him the same eyes that I had in the beginning. In the beginning, I even thought, wow, it'd be nice to see both of them working together. They're good. I thought about Bob Alessi and him working together. I think they had the same kind of style, energy, same vibe. Let's no. So I thought that would be nice to see them working together in the case. They both seem brilliant and smart. But towards the end, he lost my sympathy because the way he talks
Wow.
to Dr. Russell, like implying she was too old to be there, and she felt so offended. And I like Dr.
Oh,
Russell's
yeah.
the ham sandwich situation.
The ham sandwich. What about the shirt? Remember the holes in the
Hold on,
shirt that the
sir.
judge had to correct to you? What? How did you feel about that moment when Brennan tried to deceive and mislead you guys that the holes were made when John like slid across the ice, when in reality it was the medical examiner Hartnett, Ms. Hartnett, that cut it open
Cut
and
it off.
everything. How
Yeah.
did you feel about that?
I saw the video of him apologizing in court yesterday late night, when he said he made a mistake and everything. Didn't look good. That type of mistake, it didn't look good towards the end.
Well,
And
but you didn't see the apology in court because you weren't in the
no,
room when
no,
he
I just saw.
apologized. But I'm saying like when you're in the courtroom, when you're still in the middle of the trial, how did that make you feel when he tried to do that and then the judge had to correct it? I guess is what I'm asking.
It's probably gave me a question mark expression. We can't say anything. It's like, hey, dude, I think you're wrong. Hey, you missed this part. Sorry. So just wow. But to be fair, there was a moment where defense, same thing happened to the defense. There was a picture showed to us where Buchanan and another office were, I think, in autopsy room with Dr. Scotty Bello. And the defense implied that was Michael Proctor. And then when we came back to the court, we went to break and came back. It was clarified it wasn't
Ah,
Proctor, was Buchanan and someone else. So part of the game. At some point, someone just get a little bit desperate and throw something in there and see if it works.
sure. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. So you didn't see it as a mistake, you saw it as like maybe a desperation move on both sides.
Yes, to me, yes.
Yes. To you, yes. That's all I'm asking. I'm asking for your opinion. That's all you can give, Paula. Okay, so let's get to the verdict. There are two moments that I think really, I mean, my heart was just boom, 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 when Judge Canoni, she, and we call her Auntie Bev because we don't respect her, but that's another story. Which I don't know if you're comfortable speaking. Just real quick, how did you feel about Judge Bev? And feel free to speak freely or feel free to say nothing at all. I will accept both answers.
Judge Canoni was very kind to us, jurors. She answered questions when we had, except when during the deliberation there was one she didn't ask, but during trial in general, she was very accommodating of our needs. She was flexible. Some of us had appointments. I saw comments online that people complaining that she doesn't want to work and send us home early sometimes. Guys, it's not that. It's just like we had appointments. There was some moments that jurors need to leave a little early. It's not her fault.
No, but this again, the comments you're talking about was after the trial. You learned about this, not during the trial, right?
No, during the trial. Everything I'm talking about, I read on Twitter, on TikTok or YouTube comments was after the trial. Please make it
Yes.
clear.
Yes.
So I saw comments
Yes.
after the trial. I'm going to include that expression after the trial that people were complaining that she sent us home early because she didn't want to work, and what wasn't the case is because sometimes we have appointments that she probably had her schedule. Some days were already predetermined that we would leave early, but other days was because of us. There was I can call like 4 times specifically where a jury had an appointment and need to leave early, and that was it. No
Got you.
conspiracy.
Okay. No conspiracy. Just jurors have a life as well. Doctor's appointments, children that they need to take care of, maybe a sick child, something happened, and you guys communicated to the court. And then the judge is like, okay, so there's going to be no court tomorrow, or today we're going to leave at 3:30, and that's because you guys needed that.
Yeah. I recall specifically like 4 times I was or needs, nothing to do with the court laziness. And yeah,
How? Yeah.
she was flexible and kind to us. I have nothing bad to say about her. What I saw towards the end was some defense witnesses were hard to follow because of too many objections from the Commonwealth and too many sustained from Judge Canoni. And opposite,
Oh,
and the opposite for the defense. The defense would object, and too many allowed coming from Judge Canoni. But I noticed that towards the end, I understand that there are some things that are not admitted in court. Again, I don't know all the details of the case prior the trial. And there are statements that they can't make, there are evidence they can introduce, and I know lawyers sometimes they just, like I said, throw something in there and see if it work. I can show you this evidence, but if you look at exhibit number 29, you might find out yourself. He can't say that. And so I understand sometimes you have to stand a lot of objections. But was clear that towards the end there was way more things being allowed when was the Commonwealth presenting, examining, directive ask questions.
oh, you started to notice that when Jackson objects, Judge Canoni allows it, but when Brennan, or excuse me, yeah, and when Brennan objects, it's sustained. How did that make you feel?
It raised me a red flag, but 50% of me wonder why, 50% human part of me wonder why, because we are curious beings. And the other 50%, the professional me, understand that some things can't be said. I just pay more attention on what type of questions they were asking that were being objected and sustained and allowed. I took notes of that.
Gotcha. Understood. So you were kind of doing like a little balancing act. Like, I really wish I could hear that, but I understand there's some things that can't be admitted. But there was also part of you noticing like, okay, this is a little lopsided. Like anytime he objects, it's in. It's the prosecution objects. It's sustained, sustained, sustained. The defense objects. It's in. It's in. It's in. You notice that difference towards the end of the trial.
There was a big difference towards the end. Yes.
Okay. All right. So now the verdict. So we almost had, and this was the part I started to talk about, and I just want to, I guess, finish up on this. And I thank you for your time, by the way, because you've been more than gracious to come on my channel and talk to me, and our audience is absolutely, I'm sure, enthralled with your answers and the information you're providing, because we can't get it almost anywhere else. There are only other 11 people we can talk to if they'll talk to us. So,
and they are smart enough to keep themselves private. Yeah. So.
Well, some of them. I mean, the four person now has come forward, and anyway. So when it comes to the verdict, there was a moment when we heard Judge Canoni read to the courtroom. The jurors said they have a verdict. There was a knock on the door, and we have a verdict. And then there was a second knock and said, wait a minute. And they give the envelope. You guys gave the envelope. And then you said, wait a minute. And you knocked again. And you said, no verdict yet. What happened there?
Okay, let's clarify. First, we didn't give the envelope. The envelope has to stay with us all the time. What we did, we knocked at the door, and then we said, we're done. We think we have a verdict. And we asked for lunch, our last awesome bread lunch. And then during lunch, as we talk more relaxed, like we think we should look into the verdict again, the slip again, and fix something and make sure we did everything right. Some questions were raised during our lunch, and we stepped back a little bit. So we knocked the door, we called the court officer. We need a little bit more time. That was it. The envelope stayed with us the whole time. And then when we finished having our little time and making sure we are all certain of our decisions, we knock again and say, we're done. Now we're really done. So the judge asked for us to give the first envelope, so she can seal it and keep with her. And we kept the new envelope with us the whole time. And I just can tell you that the content inside the envelope is the same. Our verdict didn't change. Yeah, didn't change from the first time we thought we had everything all set to the second time we're sure we had everything all set.
Yeah, I think it was juror number 4. His name is Jason.
Mm-hmm. That was prior, juror number 9. At first.
Yeah, yes, that's the one that switched. He talked to TMZ, and TMZ, I watched his interview. It's about 10, 11-minute interview, and I encourage all you guys to go check it out if you haven't seen it already. Jason said exactly the same thing you just said, that it was the exact same verdict. It doesn't matter if it gets ever opened or not. You guys did not change your verdict from the first envelope to the second envelope. They're both exactly the same. And that is, as you're saying now, that was because you guys wanted to make sure that you are not accidentally convicting her of something you did not mean to convict her of.
This
Is that
too,
correct?
no, yeah, that too, but we also, some of us have some questions that we needed to talk a little bit through and then compare with our answers. We had a further discussion about certain topics, and then we confirmed our decision.
I see. Okay, so one of the jurors or a few of the jurors, you're saying, just had a little bit of I don't
Question.
know, I'm not, just questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just questions.
All right.
Judge cannot ask us not to talk about like everything that happens in deliberation because it's part of the process and supposed to be private. So I think that's what I can say. The envelope content
That's
didn't
fine.
change, and that was it.
Understood. And I won't pry. Okay. And now let's get to the second and the final piece. When you are sitting in that courtroom and the envelope is given to the judge, and the judge opens it up, looks it over, gives it to Jim, the clerk, and Jim starts reading the verdict. Well, here's one thing. Before we get there, I do have one side question. When you are arriving to court every day, for 8 to 10 weeks plus deliberations, when you're arriving there for 2.5 months, you were taken through the back so that you guys don't go through the front where there's a lot of people and everything. Did you guys, did you guys know, at least as you were deliberating, as you were getting close to the end of the case, how many people were actually around the courthouse? Did you know?
No, I didn't know the amount of people camping there. We couldn't hear anything from inside the court. Our room was, our windows was through the back, and they tint the windows when we were deliberating, so we couldn't see anything outside. We did notice a helicopter flying very close, like a few times. We could hear this, but that was it. After the trial, some people were questioning me about how come you didn't know that the pink means this and that, because I said on court TV that I stopped using pink mid-trial. Once I learned that pink was her color. Just to clarify, we are not required to never heard about the case and know about the case. Some of us knew that there was a trial before. I didn't, but some of us knew there was a trial before, that pink was her color, that some of us knew that Michael Proctor were fired, for example. So those things came up here and there, not as discussing the case, but did you see the pink shirt outside? Questions like that. Wow, you saw two people walking in pink. So why pink? And I asked some of the jurors that we're talking, oh, pink is her color and blue is his color. And then I learned that information, that piece of information. So I love pink, and I stopped wearing pinking for that reason. I don't want to give any impression that I'm towards one side or another. And on the court, the verdict day, I was actually wearing blue, and it didn't cross my mind because that day I had a problem with my car, so I needed to rush out of the house, and I just put a sweater, a blue sweater, and I left. So I know now there is a big pink army out there, and there was a lot of people out there. We heard the noise when we were reading the verdict. Just that moment, I heard the screaming outside, the shouting outside. But before, I didn't hear anything. And when I said in another interview, I would see someone walking pink because the bus drive us through the back streets of the courthouse, and the courthouse street is closed, but we can see the parallel street. And I saw a few times someone walking, two women walking in pink shirt through this parallel street that wasn't on our view through the room upstairs. And also when we go to the security, we go to the courthouse, we had to go all the way to the front of the courthouse and go through security. So we saw people outside. We saw the journalists. Sometimes we see the defense team. We see Commonwealth waiting to come in and start the court date. That's it. So it's not that we are blind and nobody ever heard about Kind Read. It was all news. No, we didn't know details about the case. We didn't have an opinion form. We weren't biased. That's what the questions they made sure they asked us, and we answered truly and sincerely. But some of us knew about the pink and blue war. I didn't. And I stopped wearing pinky for that reason. All the information I have was post trial. And some people are surprised. How come she had 4 kids and she don't know all those details? Guys, I do tasks all day. I'm a true crime lover. I do love true crime. I listen to most of true crimes in my language, in Portuguese, crimes from Brazil, sometimes international crimes, paranormal things. That's my thing. So I do have my headphones while I'm washing dishes, folding clothes, and I'm watching things. So that's why I know all the details, and yet I don't know all the things that have been said about me on X. So I'm still trying to catch up. But yeah, I got some information after trial by looking on the internet, like all of us. Like you did this the whole trial. I'm doing just now in a big load because I'm curious. Uh, but I guarantee you, none of us heard anything inside the courthouse. We did not know the amount of people that were out there.
And that brings me to my final question, probably. What did you feel, you personally, because I know I don't want you to speak for anybody else, but you, Paula, what did you feel when you heard the clerk, Jim, read the not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, and guilty on OUI? How did you feel when you heard the screams right outside the courthouse?
That was the moment where I break down when some news media reported me as the juror who left crying, because I felt a sense of relief. Wow, it's over. Personal relief for me. Wow, now tomorrow I'm going to go to the beach. That's my personal thought. At, at the same time, I watched closely that John O'Keefe's family every single day. I watched her mom cry. I watched her brother uncomfortable and upset. I watched his family members looking down every time his picture would show up on the screen. And it's heartbreaking. I'm a mother and I'm a human. And I felt for that people. I don't know what they had access to and why they bought this thing that Karen Reed did. I don't know why they conclude that was solely her fault, but we couldn't match their expectations because we did not see Karen Reed cars colliding with John O'Keefe and cause those injuries. And if the collision actually happened, we would expect to see more injuries on his body. And there was too many questions for us that we could convict her beyond a reasonable doubt and moral certainty that she did kill him. She was responsible for his death. And I felt sorry. I felt extremely sorry for them. I felt extremely sorry for John O'Keefe. Larry, I'm going to tell you something I didn't say in any interview. In my head, when we start to hear the witness volcanic, the text message, especially the text message exchange between Karen and John O'Keefe that day prior the night. As we are going through those text messages in my head, I'm just like, people, why you just stay home? I felt so bad. He was a young man and with the kids and the whole history of taking care of the nephew and niece. Just stay home. Just don't drink that much. Just don't go out in a blizzard. Why are you so dumb, people? That crossed my mind. I can't blame the victim, of course, and I wasn't blaming Karen Reed, but just like you, too much alcohol, blizzard, and driving and everything. You guys are officers, for God's sake, and you guys are mature people. You're not teenagers. Don't drink that much. Don't get out in the blizzard. I got home that night and I hugged my kids so strongly and I said them, you never get in trouble for drinking. Please, people. Because it was really, really, really they didn't understand. It was really, really upset to me that a life was lost so unnecessarily. Could just be an accident. We don't know what happened that night. Maybe he just had too much alcohol, tripped and hit his head somewhere and died, and for some reason his body stopped outside. I've said that in other interviews. I don't know. I have theories like everybody else. I have no proof. I can't convict anybody else beyond a reasonable doubt, just like I didn't convict Harry. So I don't know what happened that night. I just feel it was a very unnecessary death. It was a stupid, unnecessary death. And for that reason, I cried and I felt super bad for his family. I don't know if they're going to change their mind and ask the FBI to get into it and look deeply. I don't know if they're going to be satisfied and just move on to the lawsuit. I don't know. But I really wish they find peace.
We do too, absolutely. Justice for John O'Keefe has been, the Karen Reed theme. Nothing's changed. It was free Karen Reed and justice for John O'Keefe. That was our our whole shtick while you guys were listening to all the evidence in trial number 2 and through deliberations and the verdict, of course. So, okay, I think it answers my question, but I just want to, I don't know if maybe you did already answer it and maybe that is your answer, but I'm just going to ask it one more time. If you felt anything in particular, maybe you didn't, that's fine too. When you heard like the amount of people, when you realize like, oh my God, that if I can hear them so loud, there are a lot of people, because there were thousands of people outside the courthouse when you guys were, when the judge was announcing the verdict. And I was just wondering if that made you feel any sort of way. And if not, that's fine too. Other than you said you cried because you felt relief that it's over, that you finally have done your job, you have delivered a verdict. It's not a going to trial number 3, you know, mistrial again due to a hung jury or whatever. I wonder if any feelings went through your mind or your heart when you realized the sheer amount of people that are standing outside.
No, because I think you want to know
No.
if that shooting and those screams like had any impact on me, and didn't, because the people outside didn't impact me in a sense of I didn't think about them, because it wasn't about them outside. I didn't think about the crowd and what was going on outside the courtroom. I just thought I just pay attention in what was inside, and my feelings about that people directly involved inside the courtroom, that people that have been sharing the same space with me every single day for 30 plus days. I was just thinking about them. What the crowd did to me was alert me that was over. You know, when I heard the crowd, for me was like a bell coming. Wow, it's over, and I didn't. It's over, and then I shut them down. That's it. And then I collect myself and I cried.
Yeah.
And I cry specifically because of his family. It's not that I don't feel happy for her, or I don't feel confident in my decision. No, I do feel confident in my decision, but she's going to have the chance to move on now. And I hope she does. But they won't. They lost a person, and that's, we can't put anything to substitute John O'Keefe in their lives. Karen Reed is going to have to live with this forever. I don't think she will never be able to forget, forgive, and fully move on. It's a huge trauma. Was take a big chunk of her life. Took a big chunk of her life. But in the end of the day, she is released from the penalty. She's just gonna move on and hopefully start over and be successful and be happy. They will always miss John.
Yes, that is absolutely true. And hopefully over the next few days, weeks, months, years, however long it takes, I think you and I can both agree, we hope to find the real killers.
I do, yes. I usually don't watch local news, and I don't follow the podcasters or YouTubers of the area that cover the crimes around here, but I want to now. I want to see what's going on around here. I'm dying to get involved or give my opinions on the Sandra Birch, I forgot to say her last name.
Birchmore.
Birchmore case. I saw her documentary already. I didn't see the Karen Reeds, but I saw one on her. And also devastating case that has police involved. And police, it's not that I'm biased to the police. I know there are many police officers that are great, that are proud, that do their job, you know, with pride. But I also know that some of them aren't. Like in any other profession, you have lawyers who are terrible, you have judges who are terrible, you have doctors who kill people, and you have officers that we trust our lives on their hands, and they are not that good. They are corrupted. They don't do their job right. And what I want to say is that they take advantage of people. And this Sandra case was one of those cases that I want to watch, pay attention, what's going on close to me too.
And there's another one you may have heard of, maybe not. Maybe I'll reveal this one to you. I think his name is Brian Walsh. I know it's Walsh, but I want to say it is Brian. Brian Walsh is another, it's a murder case. And don't ask me the details, because I know his name and I know it's a murder. That's all I know. And guess who the lead investigator in that case was?
Was Michael Proctor?
It was former trooper Michael Proctor.
No, I don't know. I'm going to take a note. What's his name? Brian?
I want to say it's Brian Walsh, but you will find it. His trial starts, I think, in either September or October of 2025. And so my audience has been asking me as well. I will be covering Sandra Birchmore when that case actually gets off the ground. And I will definitely be covering it on my channel where this video is going to premiere. And Brian, I want to say it's Brian Walsh. I just can't think of any other name for him. Brian Walsh is starting, his trial is set to begin in October, and the lead investigator was former Trooper Proctor.
Well, I want to check it out too. It's not that I'm going to leave off true crime now. It's not this. It's just that it's a matter that I like. It's something that I like to listen to and understand and read more. So yeah, thank you. One more for me to check it out. So much injustice in the planet, and I tend to look to what is outside my country and international news and those things. But there are things that are so close to me that maybe I can be beneficial or be helpful in somehow. I don't know. Just bringing trustful news nowadays. It's already something you can do that's helpful rather than be spreading fake news and creating stories about those cases.
Like John DePetro, for example.
My fan, my number one.
We all have one number one fan, and that John is yours. Okay, well, listen, it's been an absolute delight and a pleasure, and I wanted to thank you for coming on my show, and my audience thanks you. I can already read the comments saying thank you so much for coming on from my audience. Before I let you go, is there anything you want to say, any last minute thoughts or anything you want to tell me or my audience, or just generally get off your chest or your mind, anything at all?
I just want to really clarify that I'm not speaking out because I'm making money first. People think I'm like swimming in $100 bills.
Did I pay you? Did I pay you for this interview?
No, nobody paid me. To be very clear, the only thing I got from all this was 3 awesome books that I'm dying to read. The one of the interviewers gave it to me, and that's it. That's all I got it from this thing. I came out, pick up like last Friday to give it to the media. I went out, I went to meetings, I meet people in their channels and whatever. And then after Friday, I came back to my house and like my normal life. And of course, I'm a human being, curious, and I'm on Twitter or X. I'm on TikTok. On TikTok, on Instagram. And I don't use those medias a lot, but since they are talking about me, now I am in. Now I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm reading a bunch of things about me. I have memes, I have my face in a lot of places making fun of me and stuff. And I respond to those because it's funny how you lose the purpose. It's not about me. I'm just a juror. I'm just an immigrant with accent juror mom that is speaking out because I felt like people are curious. I like true crime. I like to follow trials. I like the law is a theme that I like, obviously. And I want to satisfy people's curiosity about the trial, just like I would like someone to satisfy mine. And I really want the family of John Keefe know that we didn't fail them. We just couldn't convict Karen Reed. They did a good job proving us that she was responsible. I personally think she's innocent, not just not guilty. She's also innocent. And I want to leave this message out there. They probably hate me, hate all of us. They probably, or not even giving us the same attention that the people on the internet are. They are maybe trying to heal in another way. But that was my main goal. I just want to leave the message to them and fulfill other people's curiosity and helping journalists with their job. That's all I had in mind. I'm not making money. I'm not trying to build a YouTube channel and crime. None of this. I have way too many things to do. Okay, and that's it. I thank you for having me. I saw some of your videos and some of them are hilarious. I like your style, your way of doing things. You did have some refreshing questions. I'm not doing TV anymore, people, because it's the same questions over and over. I look horrible on a camera, but I'm glad we are doing this. I'm glad that we are doing podcast style, YouTube style. It's much better. I feel much more comfortable in myself. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I had one more, and now I don't want to waste your time because you said something, and I was like, hold on, I really want to ask that. But now you made me blush, and now I forgot the question.
Happens to me all the time. It's age, Larry. It's age.
It's a, I take offense to that.
Come on, we are
I'm
not 20
kidding.
anymore.
That's true. I wanted to thank you once again for coming on my show, for doing this. And like you said, I mean, the whole purpose of me specifically, and I don't want to take too much credit, but as an attorney slash journalist, because like I don't know if you know this, I have a law firm. You know, I practice law every day. You know, right now I'm traveling, but that's why I don't have my studio behind me like I normally do. But as a journalist slash attorney who's been practicing for such a long time, 12 years now, I can ask questions from a very different and unique perspective that journalists may not even understand to ask, because I'm an attorney myself. I see the trial as a lawyer, and then I see you as partaking in it, and you also having a law degree from Brazil, you know, you also being, I mean, we can have this very unique conversation, and I really, really enjoyed speaking to you because, again, like you said, I was asking, this is not intentional. I was just asking you questions like a lawyer reporter would, you know, someone who sat through the case, sat through the trial, listened to the evidence, etc., etc. So once again, Paula, I can't thank you enough. You're amazing. You're a sweetheart. And oh, I remembered it. So there was a moment.
What's your recollection, Hasutel? What's your recollection of the question?
There is a moment. That's a good one. There is a moment on Twitter, on X, just a few days ago, when you were like, okay, you know what, you guys, I am done. I can't do this anymore. You know, I have kids, I have a life. Goodbye. And then the next day, you're just like, anyway, I'm back.
Because they didn't stop talking about me. No, I can't. It's entertaining. I never had that much people talking about me before. This John DePetro guy, he gave 2 hours of his life dedicated to me. Who am I? You know?
Yeah.
Just wondering and asking questions. 2 hours. Like, I can't listen myself to 2 hours. I'm not listening to my interviews or anything. It's too much of me. And then I'm back.
Yeah.
Yes. I used social media before. It's not that I'm totally ignorant on all this. And now I want to use again, okay? I don't have a job anymore. So, halas, it's over. I'm back.
Fair enough. All right, Paula, I'll let you get back to your day. I know you have some kiddos that are probably going to be waking up and needing their mama. All right, you guys, that was Paula, juror number 11 from Karen Reed, trial number 2. You guys, I am still in awe. Not only that we got a chance to do this amazing exclusive interview on my channel, but also that I was able to, as you heard her say, ask her questions that only an attorney could ask, and ask her questions in a way that, you know, kept the conversation flowing. I tried to give her as much airtime. I tried to just, you know, ask the question and shut up as quickly as possible so that she can give us the perspective. Because I know you come here to listen to me every once in a while. But of course, I wanted you to get the fresh perspective of the jury in a chronological order of what at least one juror and her journey and what she went through and how she went through it. If any other juror out there, you know, Jason, the 4-person, I know we have one anonymous juror. If any of you want to come on my show to have a discussion, I would be more than happy. It will be almost in the exact same style, if not the exact same style. Maybe I'll change the questions up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling now. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.